Before we start, have you looked into this topic at all?
No, not really.
Perfect.
I've not really looked into the topic.
Perfect. Perfect.
Today on Truth Tastes Funny, I am speaking with David Weiss, also known as Flat Earth Dave. Flat Earth Dave discovered the truth about the world and has since felt compelled to share it. And he's going to share the truth with me. And as you all know, my motto is selling the truth. And I do that in life and in business. That is my life marketing model. And so I am open. I come to this call with an open mind and an open heart and my usual sense of humor. So, Dave, welcome to Truth Tastes Funny.
That's awesome. Open mind. Whoops. Open mind, open heart. That's awesome. When I heard about this topic, I had a closed mind. I said, I'm just going to disprove this stupid thing. I'm going to prove we live on a globe and be done with this nonsense because everybody was sending me, have you looked into flat Earth? Have you looked into flat Earth? And every flat earther has the same story that we thought it was stupid. We mocked the people that suggested it. And then when we looked, we couldn't believe what we found. And it changes your life. And in the end, we'll get to it at the end. You're going to say, what difference does it make? I still have to go to work on Monday, right? But this makes all the difference in the world. It is the most important topic. Oh, wait, Dave, how can you say that? There's starvation, there's child trafficking, there's craziness going on politically. Um, Flat Earth is the foundation of our world. The globe is the lie that lets us have all of this other nonsense, lets them get away with it. So that's a big statement. Last thing I'm going to say, I'll throw it back to you,
Okay. Okay.
is I offer three Bitcoins, which are worth 100 grand each right now, or very close to it, for one globe proof. I have a challenge for everybody. Listen to the podcast. Don't tune out yet. And then if you think the earth is a globe, prove it. And you win three Bitcoins.
I love that. I love that, Dave. I was going to ask you, so who was it that first presented the idea? No one has ever, other than you, you're the first person, has called me up and said, "Hey, the earth is flat and I would like to prove it to you," or "Hey, why don't you question the earth being round?" Nobody's even asked. Nobody's suggested to me that I change my way of thought. So who or how did that question even come up?
So I was doing a conspiracy podcast just for fun on the side, looking into lots of the major deceptions. So without getting into any of them, because we don't want to poison the well, um, people in the third year of this podcast out of New York City were sending me, "Hey, Dave, have you looked into flat Earth?" And I just delete, delete, delete. You're annoying. You're annoying. Ban for life. Ban for life. Ban for life.
Yeah.
And you're no longer allowed to even listen to our podcast, let alone comment on our social media. And then a good friend, Sophia Smallstorm, another researcher who did some documentaries on some big topics, she's like, "Dave, you got to look into this." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to look and I'm just going to disprove it." And it's only when you look, right? You can lead a man to knowledge, but you can't make him think, right? But it's only
Right.
we've been programmed before we had the ability to think, reason, or anything, or before we knew that there was lies in this world. We were told we live on a globe. We were shown globes. Well, Sesame Street, Disney, NASA, all tied together. All of this is is the lie to control humanity. So here's the thing. Why would they lie? How do so many people are in on it? We'll get to all of that, but I'm going to show you the evidence first, right? It's like walking into a
Okay.
room, you see a whole bunch of murdered people. You don't go, I don't believe it. I don't, what's the motive, right? No, look at the evidence first, then figure out the motive.
Right, right. I like that. I like that you have to first look at evidence because that's the way we evaluate this stuff. That's I'm ready. I'll tell you this, and I think a lot of people are too. Clearly, if you look at, what happened in our recent election, people don't aren't satisfied with the information that they've been given, with the system that's at work. So somehow or another, we have been distrusting authority, And a healthy distrust or suspicion of authority is good because, like you say, if someone has a good answer for something, they can give it to you. You know, if they have a good answer, they can give it to you. So here, give us your. Let's begin with the evidence at hand.
Yeah, well, just one thing I heard years ago. William Casey, CIA director, said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." Right? So I said, "Well, that's a bit everything. I didn't believe it. It is everything, literally everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. I mean, there might be
So everything we believe is false.
everything we believe is false. It's all a lie to disconnect us from who we are, where we are, what this place is, the true power that we have, and to make us give up our God-given free will to the government. Govern is to control, ment is the mind. And it sounds like a lot, and it's pretty scary, but it's really not scary once you break through. It's literally like unplugging from the matrix. When you discover that you're no longer on a random speck flying through an infinite universe, right? They tell us that the universe is expanding at 1 billion miles a minute. What's
Yeah.
space expanding into?
Yeah.
What's this? What I mean, they say these crazy things. Your mind short circuits because you're not able to deal with these large numbers and large thoughts. Because they never taught you to think that way. They taught you to memorize and regurgitate. You know how you become a
Yes.
teacher or a professor? You memorize and regurgitate the best. If I wrote a book this big, a book of BS, and I gave it to you and you studied it, and then I tested you on it and you got 100, I'm going to give you a certificate. You are now certified in BS.
Yeah.
And when you're talking BS with people, if anyone challenges you, you go, here's my certification, right? Where's yours? You have to listen to me.
Right.
And that's how this
Right.
world works. It is just, people repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating, right? So there's a couple different types of people out there. There's these paid agents to hide the truth, not many of them. And then there's just people that are so indoctrinated that they will defend the globe, like with Stockholm syndrome, but they don't even know the reason that they're defending it. They just don't know it. You think you live on the globe. No, I'm not going to hold that against you. I might judge you a little bit, but it's but we all did. We all did at one point. But if I ask you some questions, you're going to get them all wrong because I got them all wrong. What's the circumference of the Earth at the equator? How fast is it spinning at the equator? How fast is it orbiting the sun? What's the radius of the Earth? What's the distance to the sun? How did they figure it out? Do you know any of these things?
No.
Okay, and nobody, and so, but people will still defend it. Right? You know what the second law of thermodynamics is? You can't have gas next to a vacuum.
Oh, I can. Oh, yes, I can.
You can have gas.
I can have gas.
But it's in a container. Ahead. It's in a container. And
it is in a container.
And it's trying to equalize, right? It's trying to equalize. So that's a funny but it's a good example. So we live on a lumpy rock surrounded by water that's curved, but no one's ever measured that curve. With high pressure air adjacent to a void of no pressure space, a vacuum. That is impossible. You can't have high pressure next to low pressure. And they go, well, there's a pressure gradient. It's it gets thinner and thinner and thinner until there's nothing. Baloney. It doesn't work that way. If I had a box of air in a room that had no air, if I put a hole in that box anywhere, it's immediately going to fill the room. Immediately. It's going to equalize. Open up a soda can. Psst, equalizes. Why doesn't the Earth equalize into space?
Right.
Only answer you have is gravity, right? So let me just give you this is what they tell us. They taught us that the Earth is, orbiting, the planets orbit the sun, but they didn't teach us that the sun is traveling at 500,000 miles per hour. So all of the planets are spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, orbiting at 66,600 miles an hour average, weird number, right? Chasing the Earth at 500,000 miles per hour, while that entire system moves sideways at 2.2 million miles per hour. This is what they tell you is going on.
Yeah.
But we don't feel any of it. We don't feel any of it. The default answer programmed is, well, on an airplane, I could drink a glass of water and walk to the bathroom. I was like, oh, you want to compare the airplane to the slowest motion, which is the spin of the Earth. Take off, you have to double the speed of the airplane, so it's going 1,000 miles an hour. You have to take off the outer shell because there's no outer shell over the Earth. And then you have to nosedive at a mile per minute just to follow the curve at that speed. Tell me how your water's doing. You probably won't have to go to the bathroom anymore because you already went.
Right. Right.
Right. So,
Now, if we go by what, what NASA, let's say, tells us
yeah.
is proof that the Earth is round, right?
Yeah.
Space photos, the position of the sun, lunar eclipses, uh, you know, shadows, imagery, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does and clearly, I've come to this not as a scientist. I've come to this as a layman. So clearly, there are laymen that are better educated in science than I am.
Well,
But
science is is a word, but the scientific method needs to be followed in order for it to be called science. Zero in
right,
cosmology uses the scientific method. There's nothing in the heliocentric, which is the globe model, that they use pure pseudoscience. So if I showed you, so let me ask a question. You're trying to think of an analogy here. If your best friend lied to you,
yeah,
total lie, would you trust him anymore? Maybe it was one lie. Then he lied to you again. How many times does he have to lie to you before you don't trust him anymore?
twice would be
Okay,
the
twice.
max.
That'll do it. So if I show you NASA faking being in space 100 times, is that enough?
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll do that. But first, you talked about images. This is called the blue marble. It was the first image that was on the first iPhone. Every iPhone came with the wallpaper with the blue marble on it. And if you look at it, there's clouds are stepped and repeated. And we found the guy that made it. His name is Robert Simon, and he said he made it from data he was given, and he made it in Photoshop. He said, and his famous quote is, "It's made in Photoshop because it has to be." Right? It's made in Photoshop because it has to be. That's weird.
yeah.
I'm trying to get to so
By the way, I encourage people who are listening, if you have the opportunity to watch the podcast on YouTube and see the video version, you'll get a lot of the visual aids that Dave's putting up.
I'll try to describe things for the listening audience, but this is a
Yeah.
very visual conversation. I'm showing nine
Yes, it is.
images of Earth here from NASA, and if you really take the time and look at them, only one could be real because they're all different. They're all completely different size continents, different colors. You can make excuses for the colors, but either 8 of them are fake or all 9 of them are fake. And if you look at there's a 2012 image and a 2013 image, and look at the size of the United States, it's double the size in one of the pictures. I know we're getting fatter, but that was actually earlier.
Yeah.
You know, there's pictures from the ISS. They show the cool curve of the Earth, but when you look at the land topography and you put it on a map, you see that it's just a tiny little section. It's a fisheye lens from an airplane or a balloon, or not even that high. That little tiny circle is all of that. Right? That's from NASA. If you Google flat Earth, you're going to see a disk floating in space. Nobody believes that. Only globe believers believe that, right? And comparing pictures from NASA, they show like what's the curve really like? How is that? This Earth is 5 times bigger than this Earth, right? It's the same thing right here and right there, right?
Let me throw this statement out at you.
Sure.
This is just under Wikipedia's empirical evidence for spherical shape of the Earth, and they say one piece of evidence is visibility of distant objects on Earth's surface. On a completely flat Earth without obstructions, mountains, hills, valleys, or volcanoes, the ground itself would never obscure distant objects. A spherical surface has a horizon, which is closer when viewed from a lower altitude. In theory, a person standing on the surface with eyes 1.8 meters or 5 feet and 11 inches above the ground could see the ground up to about 4.79 kilometers or nearly 3 miles away. But a person at the top of the Eiffel Tower, 896 feet, can see the ground up to about 58.98 kilometers away.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. And the reason, so on a globe Earth, with the size of the globe, there's a limit to how far you can see before things will go behind a physical curve. I'm holding a globe in front of my face right now, and you can't see my mouth because it's behind a
Right.
physical curvature, right? Zooming
Right.
in isn't going to help because it's still a physical curvature.
Yes.
The problem is our horizon is not physical. Here's one of thousands of pictures that were taken. So we have a camera, which is just like a foot off the ground, I think, here. And we're looking at these two oil platforms. This one is 9.4 miles and 6.2. Now, that doesn't sound like far, but according to the globe math, the horizon should be 1.2 miles away. Not only can we see this rig completely, we can see the surface of the water for miles and miles and miles beyond it. It should be 59 feet below the curve just at 9.4 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how much curvature there should be. Let me show you something even worse. So this is in Luge, France. There's a spot where you look out over the ocean, and Mount Canigou is out here, but you can't see it because it's 175 miles away. And the top of the mountain should be over a half a mile below the curve. Can't see it. Earth is a globe, right? But in the flat Earth model, the sun migrates to the Tropic of Cancer in the north and to the Tropic of Capricorn in the south. 6 months in, 6 months out. Twice a year, it lines up with the viewer and Mount Canigou. And as it goes away, it goes beyond the mountain. Now, the reason you can't see the mountain is because the light that's bouncing off the mountain isn't strong enough to push through 175 miles of the soupy atmosphere. However, the sun is much brighter. It's much more powerful. It can, and as it does, it backlights the mountain. And when it backlights the mountain, you can see the whole mountain. The entire mountain is here, right?
Right.
The top of this mountain should be over a half a mile below the curve. Now, the globe argument is, well, the mountain is behind the curve and the sun is already set, but the sun is refracting up and the dark mountain is refracting up and blocking the sun. That's crazy. You can't figure it out because it's stupid. You're not stupid. It's stupid. Okay?
Right.
Right.
Now,
So the reason that we don't see the sun, we see the mountain here, is because the mountain's right there and the sun is just beyond it. The sun looks like it's going down because it's going away, just like when you stand under a street light, the ones down the road look like they're going down, but you know they're all at the same height.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Now, let's accept that for a moment and say, okay, well, what is the conspiracy then, right? In other words, I'm just a kid who grows up in Wisconsin. I go to school, I go to college, I study this my whole life. I don't have anything invested in a cover up or the government or anybody else. I just study what I study. Is there a reason why I wouldn't figure out these things that you're saying?
Yes.
Why wouldn't I, just as a regular kid, be curious enough to say, I don't get it. It's really the mountain's really there. Like, why wouldn't I get that?
Well, most people don't bother using their God-given common sense like that, but some do. And when they do, they just get shut down. Nobody, pays attention to them. I'm just looking for something here.
Yeah.
Nobody, there are a lot of people that question it and that they get stupid answers like, oh, it's refracting up. There's refraction, and then we also, when you look at the lights in the sky, you're like, well, that's a galaxy and it's 400 light years away. You're like, wow, that's really far. It must be really big. And then you just believe it because that's what you were told. And that's what it says in the book. And, that's what, that's what it says. So, just to show you an example of how preconceived notions shape your reality, we're looking at a picture here. I put this together. You got a guy on a pier, water, boat, sun, clouds, tree. Okay. Your life experience is telling you that this pier is higher than the water, right? And the boat is sitting on the water and the clouds are above the boat, right? You can kind of put it all together. So my question to you is, where's the 40-story building in this picture? The skyscraper, 50-story skyscraper. You see it?
What? Do
Where's the
no, no,
50-story skyscraper in this building, in this picture?
I don't see a
Are we looking
skyscraper.
across the surface of the earth, or are we looking up at the sky in this picture?
Well, we're looking across the
That's
earth.
because your life experience is telling you what you're seeing here. If I take off the deck and get rid of the sky,
Oh, I see.
we're
Right.
looking straight up. So it's how you perceive the world, right? So here's the sun up here. Let's say it's noon. Watch this. And it goes to 1 o'clock. Now, let me ask you a question. It's an easy question. Is the sun below the horizon, or is it just beyond the building out of your view?
It's just beyond the building.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me show you. This is a perspective grid, okay? And got this guy here. Here's his eye line. And we'll throw a mountain in here. We'll say this mountain is 3,000 feet above his head. There's the sun, and the sun's going to just go into the distance. Watch. Is it below the horizon or beyond the mountain?
Beyond the mountain.
Right. So now if he went backwards, let's say 25 miles, the top of the mountain looks like it's at his eye level.
Mm-hmm.
And if the sun goes
Yeah.
farther away, it goes beyond the mountain again. It looks like it's going below the curve if that's what you think. If you think it's a globe, you think it went below the Earth curve, but it just went beyond the mountain. If we had the sky in here and the clouds, the atmosphere, and the atmosphere, even on a clear day, becomes opaque over distance, look at these clouds. They're all wedging into this line right here. It looks like they're touching the mountain. But this line here is the atmospheric deck of opacity, I call it, which is 10,000 feet above the mountain. So this horizon is 13,000 feet minimum above his eyes, and the sun will just go beyond it. And you think it went below the curve of the earth because of your programming.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So but I'm still struggling with, the idea of the experts and
Who are
what
the
has to,
experts?
well, that's what I'm asking you. In other words, every everybody who maintains that there's a uh that the earth is a sphere is, in your mind, either misinformed or misguided, right? Or willfully participating in a conspiracy
Or
for us
or
to,
knowingly,
or
unknowingly participating.
unknowingly.
Right.
So somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, let's say.
He knowingly participating in we've got him to do damage control so many times. First he said when we first started, oh well, you can see the curve of the earth from an airplane, and we showed that we sent a balloon up to 100,000 feet, and we said there's no curve, and he goes, well, you have to go, first then we showed that you couldn't see the curve, and then he goes, oh, you got to go 70,000 feet, and they showed the MythBusters did the MiG fighter thing, and they showed the curve, but one of the cameras didn't have a fisheye lens, and it showed a flat horizon level with the wings. And he goes, well, you got to go higher than that. So we sent a balloon up to 127,000 feet. And we showed that there's no curve. And he goes, well, at 127,000 feet, you can't see the curvature of the earth. That stuff is flat, he goes. What was that? I mean, he said that stuff is flat at 127,000 feet, right? You can't even fathom what 127,000 feet is. This sun is supposedly 93 million miles away. Why is it lighting up this section and not the entire area? It's darker over here. It's lighter over here. It's kind of like it's a local light. And the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour to the east. That balloon is disconnected from the Earth. They want to scream Coriolis every time, something, the curve, they think things are curving because of Coriolis. That balloon should have landed, it was up there for 3.5 hours, over 3,000 miles out in the west over the ocean. But it landed 80 miles to the east of where it took off. So somehow that balloon rose up, disconnected from the Earth, outran the 1,000-mile-an-hour spin of the Earth, and landed in front of the Earth, in front of where it took off.
Yeah, I just wonder why, let's say,
Why would they
there are all
lie?
these there are all these people. Yeah, why would he? Not just him,
Yeah.
but why would all the people who just
They're
are fascinated by this stuff and study it be the stupidest people?
because
Like I could,
they memorize and regurgitate the documents that they're shown, right? Let me just show you on this International Space Station. Where did he come from? That shows that they're using some sort of layering green screen. He just faded into the picture. This was on a NASA live stream. He just faded in. Watch. Just faded in. So,
well,
okay.
that's easy, just as easily.
And this guy
That's
faded out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that could just as easily be the work of whoever made this video,
This is
not the
straight from NASA. Don't believe anything I show you. You got to go verify all of this stuff, right? And then weird things happen like this. Okay? This is just weird stuff
and
that's happening.
well, let's get into because obviously, and I just had this conversation about something as simple as AI and conversations on LinkedIn. You have a conversation with people on LinkedIn now, they don't believe that you're a person, they think you're a bot
Of
because
course.
bots sound like people. So the question is, if yes, we live in a post-truth world where nobody trusts that anything is real.
Right.
So, and because our ability with visual effects and simulation and everything else makes it possible to fake anything, so nothing can't be faked.
True,
Way back
and
when.
that's a problem. They're getting better and better, and soon it's going to be hard. It's getting harder and harder for us to catch this. But here's a scene: Kamala Harris talking to the ISS, and they're always playing with their wires and stuff. Now watch this wire. Okay, this wire is supposed to prove oh look, it's so cool in space. But watch the wire, it goes right through his wrist. Ready? Right through his wrist. Watch. I'll zoom in even closer. Okay, this is direct from a NASA live feed. Let me just speed up. Look, right through his hand, through his wrist. Watch. See the wire? Right through. So this is
Yeah,
augmented reality. They're playing these things aren't really there, right? And these things happen all of the time, and people don't want to don't want to admit it. So here, all the astronauts are having their little taco party, and right here on the table, why is this stuff sitting on the table? Let's just say, okay, they got some sticky tape on the table, right, and that's why it's sticking. But they were
well,
saying
or yeah,
they were
or we could say that the picture itself is not real. In
yes.
other words, it's doctored to
Well,
make it look like
of
it's
course,
fake.
you can say that, but this is a snapshot from a live feed from them. But they were playing with the lemon, and again, you have to see this in their footage. And they went to grab the lemon, and watch what happens to the lemon. It goes right through the person's hand. I'm going to zoom in.
Yeah,
Watch carefully.
if
Look, it's not
but if
real.
well, here's why I have a problem with this stuff.
Okay.
Having worked in the film industry for a long time and been involved in a lot of productions, getting that right requires very little effort. So why, with all the power and all the money behind it,
Why didn't they get it
would
right?
NASA or anybody make a mistake? They
Because
wouldn't. They wouldn't.
well,
They
hang on.
wouldn't because
That
why be so cavalier about it and
I have
sloppy?
three answers for that. I have three different
Yeah.
answers. Okay. So one thing is called revelation of the method, where for their karmic health, they always have to tell us what they're doing. They always have to give us a chance to see the truth. The other answer is they're just that stupid. Okay. I don't know which one it is, but if you listen to look at like Don Pettit, we lost the technology and it's a painful process to build it back again. That's why we can't go to the moon. Right. And they do these screw ups all the time. Watch this guy's left arm. There's a this is all in front of a green screen. You notice how they're always holding their arms. Watch right here. Watch right there. And there's the green screen. Okay. There's no excuse for this. There's no excuse other than, trying not to face reality. Check this out. This ball is real. It's filled with helium. Look here. Where did that come from? This is from a NASA live stream. They even put the little beaming thing and a beaming noise from
Well,
Star Trek, and they're playing
Dave,
that.
but for the benefit of moving the conversation forward, let's say let's not worry about the visual effects aspect of it. Let's
Okay.
talk about the purpose and the logic of this world. In other words, uh, you know, where does, in your view, the the conspiracy begin and end? So when you're looking at when you're talking to astronauts, you're talking to people who work for NASA, you're talking to people who are renowned astrophysicists and all this stuff. In order for all these people to be willfully ignorant, foolish, stupid, or just programmed, what's behind it? What is the benefit of it? What is the purpose of it? What purpose does the conspiracy serve? As I guess, in the real nitty gritty of it.
It serves a way to control humanity. It serves a way to, if you had a pet tiger and you had him fenced in a quarter of an acre, he wouldn't be happy, right? You put him in 20 acres, he'd probably be okay. Put him in 500 acres, he sees the fence, he'll just turn around and go do his daily thing. Put a human in a 500 million acre area, as soon as he sees the fence, he wants to go to the other side. So how do they hide that? How do they hide the fence? What they did is they literally took the flat earth, right? Large bodies of water at rest need containment. Let me just get rid of that. Get rid of that too. Large bodies of water at rest need containment. A lake holds its water because the shoreline of the lake is higher than the water, right? If you lowered the shoreline, the water would run off, right? Somehow we have water sticking to the outside of a ball in a space vacuum. When you actually think these things through, you realize that they're scientifically impossible. So our world is a pond. Antarctica is the highest continent on Earth. Compared to the average elevation of all the other continents, Antarctica is over double number 2. So it is the shoreline of our pond. Antarctica isn't a continent at the bottom of a ball. It's the shoreline that goes all the way around. Captain Cook is the last person that tried to circumnavigate Antarctica. It took him 3.5 years. He went over 68,000 miles when it's only 11,000 miles around. How did he go 68,000 miles unless he went all the way around here, right? And the Antarctic sailboat race that's going on right now, these guys, you've seen the sailboat race, right? These boats are the highest tech boats. They go 30 miles an hour, right? NASA is in charge of all of the GPS. So when they're out there, they tell them how far they're going. They do distance over time. And the average speed of the winner is 4 miles per hour, according to the distance that they supposedly are going. 4 miles per hour. That's like saying I won the Indianapolis 500 and I went 25 miles an hour the whole time. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get to why would they hide this, right? And the reason is, what is out here? What is out here? Is there more land, right? And how do they hide it? This is how they hide it right here. So imagine this. This is the world. They cut it out, right? They cut it out and then they wrap it around a sphere. And they say, you're not allowed to explore independently this white area. It's off limits because of the penguins and because of the ice. Now, if you want to go to Antarctica, they'll take you to a little island out here, way out here. And it's called, ready for this? Deception Island. And they'll show you penguins and they'll show you ice. And then they'll kick you out and they'll charge you 40 grand, okay, to do that. And so it's not wildly visited as they want you to think. There is no independent exploration here, exploration here, right?
Yeah.
And this is off limits. The North Pole and the South Pole, the two places that would tell us where we live, are off limits physically and virtually. Hey, everybody, quick message that I'd like to share with all of you. Our lives are filled with toxins in our air, food, and even in the information we're taught. Avoiding them all is impossible, but helping your body detox doesn't have to be complicated. That's where Masterpiece comes in. Just 5 drops under your tongue twice a day, and that's it. Super easy, super simple, and it doesn't even taste bad. I've tried countless supplements, and while generally I'm pretty healthy, I didn't really feel much of an effect. But with Masterpiece, it delivered noticeable benefits. Check out the podcast I did with Terry from Masterpiece, linked below this video, or you can find links directly to Masterpiece on my website, flatearthdave.com, or in the shopping section on the app. The key to health is to detoxify. Now back to the show.
Right.
Now let me show you something else that'll help you. And I'm going to answer the why the lie. I'm going to answer why the lie. So if you look at plane routes, right? Plane flights. Here we go. There it is. Here is that one. So here is New Zealand. So Australia is around the corner here. Here's Argentina. Here's the tip of South America. So if you wanted to fly from New Zealand to Argentina, FlightAware says this is the fastest route. This is the Great Circle route right here. I don't know why you wouldn't just go here, but big deal. No big difference. And there's islands out here with airports that you can land on if there's an emergency. Okay. So this is the shortest route. Before I show you this, if this is the world, we got the north on the top, the south on the bottom, the equator around the middle. Okay. Ignore the green screen here. Any 2 airports anywhere in the north, would you ever need to go below the equator to get from one northern airport to another northern airport? Would you ever need to go below the equator?
No.
No, and you're right. And no plane ever does. Hear that out. No matter where an airport is, if they're both in the north, the plane never goes below. The same would be true for the south. It would never have to go into the north. However, the long-distance southern flights do a very funny thing. This is the route. New Zealand, across the equator, San Francisco, Texas, and Argentina. Why? What's the shortest distance between 2 points?
Straight line.
New Zealand, San Francisco, Houston, Texas, Argentina.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? Remember the World Cup? The World Cup. Now people say, well, they have hubs there. They need to drop other passengers off. That's coping. That's called coping for your global religion. But the winners of the World Cup, Buenos Aires, had their own plane, their own pilot, and they wanted to go home after the World Cup. Doha, they went to Rome to get fuel and then to Buenos Aires. Wait a minute. Why didn't they just go straight or just get some fuel over here? Doha, Rome, ocean, Buenos Aires.
Yeah. I'm
going to show you something else too, because these people say, well, they wanted to go visit the Pope, this and that. Well, here is some emergency landings. Sometimes, something happens on a plane and they got to land a plane. Someone's having a baby, right? So this is a flight from New York to Hawaii, and there was an emergency right here. So they went 1,000 miles out of the way and landed in Seattle. And they got there in 15 minutes. Do the math. New York, Seattle, Hawaii on a flat Earth map. Let's look at another one. Pakistan to London, they went to Moscow. Doesn't seem that far out of the way, but it was. It's over 1,000 miles. They got there in no time flat. Moscow's right on the line. Again, Moscow, right on the line from Doha to Chicago, right?
Right.
Beijing to Dallas, Calgary's right on the line. It was 1,500 miles out of the way. They went there. Why did they do that? Right? Here's one going to from New York to Fiji.
Okay.
New York to Fiji, right? They're going here, emergency. Oh, no, they're going to Auckland, New Zealand. Emergency landing in Fiji. Wait a minute. Fiji's kind of way over here. What happened? If you look at it on a flat Earth map, Fiji's right in line. Here's the zoom in of it. New York, Fiji, New Zealand. Why is it? It's always weird that it matches up on a flat Earth map. And one more. This is my favorite one. Hong Kong, it was going to England. It stopped in Germany 12 hours later because 4 hours into the flight, a family traveling together, mom died suddenly. Weird, right? We don't have to talk about that. But she's with her children and her husband. Plane's full. She's dead in her seat. They didn't land for 8 more hours. Could you imagine these kids sitting next to their dead mother for 8 hours? Why didn't they land? Right? Why didn't they land? And the answer
But
is
where is all that like documented though?
this is all documented. This is documented. They said this is the flight route, and
We have to get to the because we don't have the time to, let's say, fact check and
I'm
explore
gonna
all
tell
that.
you where you can
We
find
need
all
to
the
get
facts.
into that's okay. We
Yeah.
need to get into the logic
All right. Why?
of
Why? Yeah. But let me just show
why.
you this. Let me show you this. I
Because I
got it.
know
I'm going to
that
give you
there are
the
going to be,
logic.
yeah, go
I'm going to
ahead.
give you the logic. The reason they didn't go is because they were over Russia. And if they landed in Russia, Russia probably would have been very helpful. That could spark world peace. Can't have that. And also, people like me would go, "You're over Russia because the Earth is flat." So they couldn't admit they were over Russia.
Okay,
Hundreds of these.
but
Hundreds of
that's not the why of the conspiracy.
right.
In other words, that's not the why of the because I'm like I said at the beginning of the conversation, I'm ready to say, okay, I'm tired of the bullshit and the
Yeah.
and the and the the billionaires and all this other stuff,
Right.
but even believing that the earth is round, I have no trouble believing that,
So, all right, I'm going to explain it right now. Give me 2 minutes and I'll do the whole thing. Right.
okay,
So here is the power of control. These are the people that run the world. These are the puppets of the real people. I believe the real controllers of this world are beyond the shoreline of Antarctica. There's a lot of evidence of that. Council of Foreign Relations, United Nations, the Bilderberg Group, Club of Rome, Royal Institute of International Affairs, and the Trilateral Commission. These are the people unelected that are running our world. They run everything, right? And so Rockefeller himself said, I don't want a world of thinkers. I want a world of workers. And that's what that's what they're creating. So getting into I showed you that the globe again is a prison for your mind. It says, okay, this is all that there is. And I'm looking for where the heck is it? Here it is. So when you're born into God's world. You're born at the center of creation. And the government can't make laws against God unless, of course, they convince you that you don't live in God's creation. They put you on a ball, they commoditize you, they give you a birth certificate, they trade you on the stock market, they inject you full of poisons, and they have you believing in this satanic ball system. When I say satanic, the number of 666s in the globe model are unbelievable. But the divine law is the law of God. Common law is the law of the land. Statute law, admiral maritime law is the law of the sea or man's law. In order to convince a man to give up his divine rights, because you can't take them. Your divine rights are given by God. They can't take them. But you have to convince them to give it up. And their common rights, you have to convince them that they're not divinely created into a divine world. So if you live on a ball, you're living in fear. You're afraid of asteroids. You're afraid of global warming. You're afraid of all sorts of stuff. And then you give away your personal freedom to the government. You're like, take care of me, daddy government. And I'm hoping you realize that the governments aren't here for us. They're here. They're there for themselves to enrich themselves. And they're hiding all sorts of things like free energy, hiding the creator, hiding your spirituality, hiding more land, hiding more resources, hiding scientific knowledge, hiding what's in Antarctica, and that we're at the center of the creation and we're special. They don't want you to know that your thoughts create your reality. And if you do figure it out, they want your thoughts limited to the ball. Remember Truman in the Truman Show? I want to be an explorer. And the teacher goes, there's nothing left to explore. Well, that's not true. There's more. There's more beyond the shoreline of Antarctica, in my opinion.
yeah, and there's something about the South Pole being you have to get permission
And it
to
costs you
go, but
billions
there's
of
a
dollars.
treaty.
Right. There's
Well, I don't know about that, but
the
there's
Antarctic Treaty.
the Antarctic Treaty, right?
Yep.
Um, but I do wonder, where the cycle of information,
Oops.
who is the gatekeeper of the information? Because it would seem like if you've got people who are, as I've said, spent dedicate their whole life to studying the universe,
Right.
and the only way, and they may easily come upon the truth, but somehow not, you have what you believe to be true, and you're using whatever means you have to spread the information, but there isn't a widespread exploration into flat Earth, and nor is there even
Well, you're incorrect there.
a
There's millions and millions and millions of people. In 4 years ago, they did a survey in Brazil, and over 10 million people don't believe they live on a globe. That was 4 years ago in just Brazil. It is growing.
okay.
It is growing exponentially. In 1959, when they did Project High Jump, highest land, um, Admiral Byrd came back and said there's more land bigger than the United States on the other side of the pole. Other side of the pole? That would be where Australia and Africa are. That's bigger than the United States that no human has ever seen. And it's like, how can that be on a globe? Right? If you and then they started the Antarctic Treaty, and all of the countries in the world eventually signed that treaty. That's weird. We can't agree on anything except that, and everyone has to get the jibby jab in their arm. But if you they all agree on those things. So what if the world was set up like this? Just what if? I don't know. We don't need to, we can prove the earth is flat without speculating what's beyond Antarctica. But what if it's set up like this? This is Antarctica, and out here is more land. There's more land out here, right? So if
Yeah.
somebody lived on that land, that extraterrestrials from the outer space, right here on flat Earth, right? That makes sense. Outer space is like Narnia. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, what if this is all that there is? But out here, there's more land, and the controllers live out here. And this is our prison. We think this is the ball, right? If you can't even imagine the abundance of this world of overabundance, then you won't be able to manifest it in your life. If you live on a ball, you're an insignificant speck. You came from pond scum. You evolved. God is either non-existent or diluted or far away, and you're not important. But the truth is, we are important. We are at the center of creation. We have great power, and the government wants to get above you and above God, right? And that's
Yes.
they can only do that with your permission, and that's why
Oh,
they're always telling us what they're doing, and we're allowing it. Good.
okay, Dave, because now we're on to something that truly fascinates me, and I am aligned with, which is the idea that, yeah, it is in the interests of the people who hold the power to make sure that we are as poorly educated as possible, that we do not think for ourselves, that we get wrapped up in all kinds of other bullshit that is distracting, and they throw
Entertainment.
distraction, yeah, distraction upon distraction, to the point where we've now willfully turned over all of our liberties to just forfeit even whatever illusion we might have had, let's say in the United States, other countries too, but let's say in the United States you had this experiment in democracy, and you could say, well, it wasn't working as a democracy, it wasn't real, it was fake, it wasn't a real democracy, sure, but we have literally relinquished that power to where we now have no power. There's no power at all. You don't have any. There's no even illusion of democracy. So now this country, like its sister and brother countries, which again are just countries, they're just fabrications of what the Indians called uh, what do they call it? Black 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 water on dead wood, where it's just they're just writing on paper to say that this land isn't our land, right? So it's the same idea here. We've now relinquished the freedom to vote, to have whatever leadership we, all our self-determination. We gave it up. We just didn't want it anymore. We got tired of it. Now we don't have really any, now there's no power, you know, within a country construct anymore. So now the question is, okay, what do you do when in fact we're just creatures in the center of creation,
I
which
got
I
it.
love.
The answer is
Yeah.
we take our power back. It's the people that don't do anything that are allowing the government to walk all over them. 1984 says boot stomping on your face is what you're going to experience, and we're getting to that point. And there's
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that are walking right into that. Um, the the truth is, when you wake up to this, you literally unplug and stop feeding them. This is literally an energetic spiritual warfare. They're going after our souls. Now, that's something a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? We live in a soul system. This system was created by the creator for souls to have experiences here on this realm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, not a soul lure system. That's what NASA's trying to do. They're trying to lure your soul away. Um, there's so much satanic stuff in NASA. This is just, I'm showing a scene from Sesame Street. Fiction, rockets, and globes. They're always giving us clues. That's the beauty of this thing. We're in a game. It's literally a game, and they're always showing us their hand. They're always showing us. And if we're too stupid to see it, that's on us, right?
So that's the argument. That's your argument about these
Screw ups.
glitches,
Yes, yes.
they're hints.
Right,
They're hints, and that does make sense.
right.
I do believe that. I do believe that because I
Yeah,
think there is I have watched my share of murder mysteries, right?
sure.
And and of course, a lot of it's fiction, but the idea is that someone who's guilty of perpetrating something can't resist showing their hand at some point. They really
Right.
want people
Oh, it goes
to
it goes
uh
deeper. It goes deeper
yeah,
than
they
that.
want
Yeah,
people to know
right.
because they're so, and this is where we're at now politically, I think, in our world, not just the United States, so we're just one country in the world where the people have proven themselves so willing to follow that the powers that be are like, well, you don't even deserve a good lie anymore. We're not
Right.
even
And
going to
I
lie to you.
I think we're in an
We're going to
intelligence test.
basically,
I think the world is going to split into two worlds. The NPCs that go into the 15-minute cities that they're creating in a total technocratic world, and then the people that have unplugged and said, no, I'm not any part of it. We don't think we need to take down the government. We need to ignore the government and they will just disappear. If everyone woke up
I
to
like
flat Earth
that.
tomorrow, if everyone woke up to flat, all the governments would just instantly dissolve. We wouldn't need to do anything because they have no power. The only power they have is in our imagination. It's like money. Money is in our imagination. Of course, we need money. Luckily, everyone imagined it that $100 is worth whatever $100 will get you, and maybe a bag of groceries if you're lucky. Um, and so it's all a belief system, right? Another one, scams, then the globe, and you got the devil. There's so much stuff, truth. But this is what they want you to think. This is Charles Manson. I'm showing. They want you to believe that's a cult leader, but that's a cult leader. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's the leader of a cult. We catch him lying all the time. And we show him, he's like, oh, well, the Earth, Eratosthenes figured this out. We show him how he's wrong, and he repeats it again and again and again. We're not theorizing. We show him how he's wrong, right? He's an actor. He's not a physicist. He's nothing. And he has changed his story so many times based on the stuff that we've been exposing, right? For example, do you know about the Georgia Guidestones?
No.
So in Georgia, here in America, there's a monument that it's called the Georgia Guidestones, and it has these pillars, kind of looks like Stonehenge a little bit, and it had 10 commandments on it, and one of them is never let the world population rise over 500 million again. That's weird, but we don't. That's a whole nother show. But in the center stone, there was a little tiny hole, and when you look through it, you can see Polaris, which is our North Star, right?
Uh,
You look through it. So they sell us, even though we're corkscrewing through space, traveling 4.5 billion miles a year, never to return to where we were before. Polaris is so far away that in all of history, it hasn't moved because it's so far away. That's like we're moving tiny little bits and it's still there. And then they say, well, our Earth is wobbling, right? Our pole is wobbling. And 2,000 years ago, we had a different North Star. That's why the Egyptian pyramids, which is now closed, there's a hole there that looks at Polaris. And they say, well, when they built it, it was pointing towards Thuban, right? So you can't argue with that because it's just a belief system. However, Georgia Guidestones were built in 1981. The Earth wobbles at 1 degree per 76 years. 1 degree in the sky is 3 full moon widths. It was up for over 40 years, and that would mean 1.5 moon widths. The star should have been out of that hole. It should have been well out of that hole, but we went there. We saw it. It's still there day and night. It's there. So we started making videos. They were going viral. Guess what happened? Boom. A terrorist blew up the Georgia Guidestones. And within 3 hours, bulldozers were there, knocked the entire thing down, stole the time capsule, and there was no investigation, just like on 9/11. Okay? There was no investigation. So this is what's called rock solid proof. And they blew it up right in front of us.
It seems, though, to me, considering all of this and the intricacy of it, that there's a lot of effort being expended to deceive people who are already too stupid to even retain their own self-determination. So these are people who you showed The Simpsons. These are, like if I watch Fox and
don't do that.
And I become, I succumb to the idiocracy, let's say, and I usually don't get political on the show, but this is really science. We're talking about science. We're not talking about politics. I'm much more subscribed to the center of the modern education, creating people smart enough to repeat what they're told and follow orders, and dumb enough to think this makes them smarter than everyone else. That's the poster that the meme that Dave has up now, and that's so totally true because here we are. That's what I'm kind of saying is the gullibility and foolishness of man is so profound that it seems like there isn't really a need for an intricate conspiracy theory. We've already said, let's say in this country, we said, look, we don't care. Just do whatever you want. You want to make a wrestler, the secretary of what it doesn't, nothing matters anymore. So make anybody anything because none of it matters. If we're that detached from any kind of critical thinking, then why is any of it needed? Why is there a charade?
So here's the thing.
Because we're going to get scared if we think that there's a barrier to the.
Well, here's the thing. If false evidence appearing real, FEAR. That's the only true thing I've ever heard a president say is only thing to fear is fear itself, and fear is false evidence appearing real. So when you become a flat earther, you literally lose fear of everything because you realize what this place is and you realize the true power that you have and you realize the creator's got your back. And you realize a lot of things. A minute ago, you mentioned Indians, right? Now, some of that story you told might be true, but did you know that San Francisco was here already before Columbus got here and the Indians said they found it, right?
The airport too, or just
no, I don't know about the airport. The buildings. Have you looked into the old world yet? This is your homework. On my website, flatearthdave.com, right? I have my app there, but if you just go, there's a banner that says Old World Order. It's a 90-minute video. It's the best. You watch it and it will blow your mind. It'll completely change your mind about understanding what this world is, right? They had buildings like this. There's buildings in every city that were built before motors, before power tools, before any shipping companies, right? They were built with chisel, and the story was it was built in 1 year, right? Right? These crazy buildings all over the earth, and they're
no breaks.
They're everywhere.
No breaks. For the
They're
workers
everywhere.
is what
And
that's an abuse of the
well,
workforce,
no.
probably.
You when you see the stories behind this stuff, um, so I if you search flat Earth, if you say, hey, top 10 reasons that the Earth is flat, Google is
Right.
going to feed you top 10 reasons the Earth is not flat because they're not going to give you what you want, even though it's there. That's why I created the app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Every day there's a featured video. And here's my challenge. Watch the featured video while you have your coffee or tea in the morning. And
Yeah.
for 2 weeks, at the end of that 2 weeks, if you think that the earth is a globe, send me a proof and you win 3 Bitcoins. But before you do, you have to click the question mark button, which is the frequently asked question page, which will answer all of your questions. Hey, what about eclipses? Why would they lie? There's videos on here that will blow your mind. Okay. I'll send you one after the show by a girl named Laura Nina out of the UK, who in 10 minutes, she explains why the lie better than I can. All right. And basically,
Okay.
the bottom line is if you play on their ball field, you have to play by their ball field rules. And if you play with their fiat money,
I thought you were going to say
they own
if you
you.
play on their ball field, you have to play with their balls, which is probably also a rule. But that said, I do feel like that the time is right for us to be asking as many existential questions and profound and deep questions as we possibly can, because we're not we're not we're not going in a great direction now. So there's no reason to cling to any preconceptions or other ideas. It's not going well. And now someone might say, "Oh, well, it is going well. We just think it's not going well because we're being told by people it's not going well." But if you look at the natural disasters that are happening, unless you believe that those are man-made, like literally man-made, or they're not really happening. I don't know what your
So,
thinking is on that, but
without going deep into that, um, this is going to trigger people. I'm going to say it anyway. On my website, there's a banner that has a nuclear bomb exploding on it. Listen to those podcasts. Don't believe anything. Look at the research, and you'll find out that nuclear bombs, the good news is, and there's bad news to follow it, that nuclear bombs don't exist as explained to us. However,
uh-huh.
there are weapons that are far worse that they do have. I want to show you one more thing. You know what
Yeah.
the vomit comet, the zero G plane is? You go, it does
Oh yeah, sure.
dark, and you float.
Yeah.
So here's a zero G plane, and here is the space station. Kind of looks a little similar, right? Looks a little similar. Okay, zero gravity could look similar. So there was on the morning news. This was in early 2000s. They said we're going to have we're going to be able to talk to the shuttle people. The satellites only
Yes.
have
Yeah.
like 20 seconds, and during it, all of a sudden they all slammed into the wall and they cut away back to the newsroom. They slammed into the wall and they cut away back to the newsroom. And I knew I was very worried and about like, oh, they said, oh, the space station shifted, a sudden shift that they were
Uh-huh.
aware of. So then I started looking and I noticed that the guy on the lower part of the screen, I'll come back to it. This is the vomit comet. When it comes out of its arc, everyone falls to the ground. I noticed this guy here, there's a roll of duct tape and something else. He catches it with one hand, like he's done it a million times before. Okay. And so I turned it 90 degrees and I compared it to the end of a zero G flight.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. They were filming on a zero G flight and something happened to the arc. They had to come out of the arc quicker than expected, and it went out live on the news. They cut away, changed the topic, right? They go, oh, it was an unexpected shift to the space station. Look at this guy, like a boss. He catches that with one hand. If there was an unexpected shift of the space station, he would have crapped his
Yeah.
pants and he wouldn't have caught the duct tape.
And these things we can study, but I think the bigger question, what where are we going and why, and where should we be going? And you were right when you told me before, Dave. We could talk for hours, and we could, but to wrap this session up and say, okay, let's give the audience something to think about. Where where could we where could we be going if
Yeah,
we adopted this
right.
this understanding?
We would live to our full potential. Right now, they tell us we only use 10% of our brain. They want us to only use 10% of our brain. That's nonsense. That most
Yeah.
of our DNA is junk DNA. They don't want us using our DNA. We have the ability to to communicate over great distance telepathically. We have so many things that they've taken away from us, that they've hidden from us, that they've fluoridated out of our brains. They've fluoridated our pineal gland. You don't learn about your pineal gland in school. You don't learn sacred geometry or vortex mathematics. They teach you slave mathematics, accounting, algebra, right? They don't teach you the true things of this world. They don't teach you about the giant trees. They don't teach you about the giants that lived here. They don't teach you that dinosaurs were fake. They tell you that dinosaurs were real to hide giant humans, right? They don't want you to know anything about your history. So where can we go with this? When you unplug from the system, you all of a sudden reconnect with the creator and you can live to your full potential. How do you do it? Now, do it is through knowledge. The thing is, if you want to become rich, Hirsch, invent something that makes people lazier, right? Because right now, if you drop the pencil on the floor, you're not going to get up, walk around your chair and pick it up. You're going to
Right.
reach over with your foot. You're going to roll it over. You're going to lean over. You're going to pick it up the easiest way possible. Nothing wrong with that, right? So if you got to cook dinner for your family, you got to go out, you got to shop, you got to come home, you got to cook, you got to prep, you got to cook, you got to serve, you got to clean up, and that's dinner. Or you want to be lazy, just order fast food, right? Just go out and get some fast food and throw everything in the garbage. And you want to be lazier, use DoorDash. So have them deliver it. And if you want to be lazier, leave the door unlocked and have them come and drop it on the table in front of the couch. I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar businesses because people want the easy way to do stuff. So if you want to learn about this, it's not easy. You actually have to take the time and use your God-given common sense. Our brains are atrophied, where we don't learn anything in school other than how to memorize and regurgitate. That's it. They don't allow critical thinking in all public schools, right? There's a couple teachers out there. I've been every year I go to 2 or 3 different high school classes where I zoom in and I teach them about this stuff. And these are some really teachers that are teaching their kids to critically think. So what I do is I tell people, go to my website. You can get my app, $3 app, if you really want to learn about it. It's amazing. It's got so much stuff on it. It's got a dating site on it, friend finder, meetup maker. It's got all sorts of stuff, tons of resources. But if you don't want to get the app, that's fine. It's on my website. There's a big picture of me. It says crash course. All you got to do is click that, and there's a list of 20, 30 videos that Google is hiding from you. You can search for them by name. They won't come up, right? But you look at these videos and you just go through them one by one. I guarantee you can't get through 3 of them without realizing that you don't live on a globe. It's scientifically impossible. But you can go ahead and believe you live on a globe, not have any proof, live in your gold globe religion because that's easier, right? If I told you I lived in Connecticut at the beginning of the show, I normally tell people I live in Connecticut, and I said to you right now, where do I live? And you said Connecticut. I would say, is that a belief or do you know it? Because belief is easy. Takes one, doesn't even take a second. You believe, I got it, done. I'm going to go smoke a joint.
Right.
Right. But if you want to know something, then you have to go research. You got to look me up. You can find me on Facebook, find my friends, look at some pictures, look at the metadata, right? You're like, okay, I figured out where he lives. He lives in Connecticut, right? So knowing takes time and effort. People don't want to do that. But let me tell you, I went to college. I went to corporate America. I did all these things. I rose to the top of 2 different professions. I started my own business, rose to the top, and I walked away from it all to do this. And this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I work 24/7, right? For the last 10 years, I've been doing this all day, every day, all night. I barely sleep. And it's the greatest joy of my life.
Well, well, that's great because I think that we do spend a tremendous amount of time just being lazy. Like if you
Watching
think about
movies,
AI,
drinking
we could
beer,
we
going
could
to
talk
sports.
about AI where the idea with AI is to take the one thing that's the hardest and most creative and most richly rewarding and everything else and get rid of it so we don't have to do it anymore.
That's right.
Right? And people are like, oh no, AI is going to replace us. And it's like, well, of course it's going to replace us. We created it to replace us. We created it so that we couldn't even wait for it to be good before we relinquished control and wanted it to replace us. We were like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is just like a real person. And it's like, no, it isn't. It's completely lame. And they're like, well, yeah, it is lame, but that's good enough. It's like, so I totally am down with that with that aspect of it, I think if we look at human nature, the answer's in there. Look at what we've done with ourselves and to ourselves just in the last 30 years, because I'm 58. So let's say I've been paying attention more or less for 30 years tops, but I wasn't a very curious kid. I liked to be funny, which meant I liked to kind of escape. So I didn't necessarily love reality, but I loved unreality. I loved fantasy. And I would rather create an entirely fabricated world than study the real world. But as you get older, you start to look at things a little more practically, which can sometimes lead us to question some of the things that we're being told. But not too often, honestly. Clearly, we are not a society of inquisitive people. We just aren't, you know.
But once you see the truth of our world, I used to be bored sometimes. Like I got 20 minutes before I go somewhere, I'll stare at the wall or just flip channels on the TV. Now I got 20 minutes. This is amazing, right? Now I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start researching. I don't have to talk to anybody for 8 hours, right? Or whatever. And the world is so fascinating. And when you go outside, once you start, you got to watch Old World Order. I'm telling you, watch it.
Yeah.
You'll never be able to walk outside again without going, how did I miss that? I've lived here my whole life. I walk by this every day. How did I miss it? Right? When you start seeing what this world is, you're every day before I say 7 a.m., I have my mind blown every single day, right? Well, ask some other people, when's the last time you had your mind blown? They're like, I don't know, man, and they just go to work, they come home, they can't wait to watch a movie, they eat crappy food, they go to sports, they drink beer, they pass out, and then, I get 2 weeks off in the winter and I can go on vacation, and that's their life.
Yeah.
That's not life.
Oh, I agree. Well, Dave, this is awesome. I hope we'll stay in touch and have more conversations like this. And I really appreciate your coming on. FlatEarthDave.com. If you have a chance, if you've been listening to this while you're in what you think is your car driving down what you think is your road, to what you think is your job on the way to what you think is home, but really doesn't have to be. Please check this out on YouTube because you'll want to see a lot of the visuals that Dave included, and it's been a delight. And thank you so much for coming on. I hope you'll come on again.
All right, man. Thanks so much. See you soon.